Greetings from Northfield, Minnesota, a suburb of the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul in Minnesota and the United States of America. Ramiz has many friends in this town, and I've invited them to stop by, some of them, and give their condolences. My name is Wayne Eddy, and I'll be back to tell you about my, what we called, bromance that I had with Ramiz.
I'm Bruce Moreland, and Ramiz was my friend, both in curiosity and in life. We shared many talks. We shared lots of interests. He was the most curious person I've ever met, I think. And I enjoyed getting to know him. I took him down to the Mayo Clinic in Rochester where I used to work, and he was always excited to introduce me to his doctors as the statistician that used to do clinical trials. So I loved him dearly, like a brother, and it's really sad that he's gone now. I just wanted to, he was always very interested in things that I would bring into the room, and one of the things I brought in was this little symbol that I wear, and he asked me what it was, and I said, well, it stands for liberty. And he wanted one right away, so I went out and got another one and gave it to him, and he wore it for quite a while. So, goodbye, my friend.
Ramiz, what can I say? Your light is so bright still that it shines through the shadow of death. We have been so blessed to soak in the warmth of your humanity, hear your laughter, listen to your witty remarks as you went back and forth with Wayne. And we have been blessed to be in your circle, if for just a little while. And we want to say how grateful we are for that opportunity, and that our heart, my heart, everyone here at KYMN goes out to Karen, Alyssa, Alina, and Zach. We miss you, and we are thinking of you all the time, and we send you love across the seas and across our hearts. They go out to you. And I do want to also say, Andy says hi. Thanks.
I first met Ramiz through his daughter Alina. She came and said happily one day he had been booked onto the Wayne Eddy Affair. He was going to be on the radio station. I had known he was coming into town, but of course I've never met him. And that was my first encounter with Ramiz, and why it's something that probably everyone has had that knew Ramiz, a first encounter, and you knew things in your life were going to be different after that encounter. His genuine honesty, his compassion, his feeling for all of mankind, not just people he knew, not just people from, you know, his little area of life, but globally. He just had a wonderful way about him that made everyone that I know that knew him feel good inside about yourself, about him, and about the world. And that's something that you can't replace. We're all very saddened by the loss of Ramiz, and he will definitely be missed.
Hello again. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about my wonderful relationship with Ramiz. Now, Ramiz was a very intelligent man. He made me feel so small. Well, not feel small, but compared to him, I'm nothing. I spent 24 hours of continuous conversation with him, cut up in 2-hour segments. And I learned a lot about the man, but more importantly, I learned a lot about myself through him. And by the way, once again, Karen and Alina and Alyssa and Zach, I have to give you my total attention for the moment, because although I have not known Elisa, I've met you, Zach, and you're quite the kid. Your dad was so proud of you. And of course, Elena, that's how we got started. I, of course, knew you through a business that you were working for, did an interview with you, and said, wow, that was really interesting. She said, you have to meet my dad. And about a year later, I did get the chance to meet her dad. And Alyssa, someday I hope to meet you. But I haven't been to Houston for a while. Here's a little bit of information I think that you might like to hear. Here in America, we have something called a bromance. Now, if you want to know what that is, all you have to do is ask Karen, and she'll tell you. What it is that two men really like each other. And we had one going, and it was wonderful. Let me tell you about some of the things that we did. When he learned that he had cancer, we were all saddened. But he said, it'll work out, it'll work out. And it was during one of our interviews that we came up with the idea of chronicling his trip through cancer treatment, never anticipating that it would end upon his death. And he would come in about every Friday, every other Friday, if he was strong enough after chemotherapy, and he would tell us what it was like and what he was going through. And it gave him something to look forward to, because it's such a down time when you're taking chemotherapy. But he'd have something to look forward to, and we wouldn't just talk about his cancer, we would talk about anything and everything. He was such a great man. As a matter of fact, one of the things I told him is that my Bible group as a Christian prayed for him to our God to help him get through this. And then when I went through some surgeries, he prayed to Allah for me. And I think we're both blessed from those prayers. A story I like to tell is that one day when I knew he was pretty down from the treatments, I said, I'm going to give him a call. And I called him up and I said, Ramiz, how would you like to go for a convertible ride? Oh, okay. So I picked him up, and he got in the car and he looks around. I have a big old 1975 Oldsmobile convertible. It's a big car. And he just enjoyed that. And I took him to what we call a drive-in from the old days. And that's where you drive in under a canopy with rock and roll music playing over the speakers. You push a button, tell them what you want from the menu that's attached to a pole, and then they come out carrying a tray, and they balance it through some mechanism on the window. Then you sit there and you pass the food around. Well, Ramiz had his burgers and his fries and his root beer. We were at a famous A&W root beer stand. Well, we get all done, put the stuff back on the tray, and we're leaving, and about a third of the way home, he says, Wayne. I said, what? And he holds up the root beer mug. And I said, oh, I didn't even see that. He had it holding it down and not hiding it. He just had it in his lap, and I didn't see it. And I said, I'll turn around and go back. He said, I'll bring it back tomorrow. I said, well, you don't have to do that. We can turn around. He said, no, I want to go back and have more root beer. He always cracks me up. He has such a great sense of humor. And one of the things that comes to my mind constantly is intelligence. The man was a wordsmith. If I could only speak the language he does in English, I mean, I would say, well, I know that word, but how do I weave that into a conversation? He was amazing. I loved having him on the air. Another thing he posted on Facebook, and I don't really get into that much, but I happened to cross it, and it was his 8 rules of marriage. And there were 8 do's and 8 don'ts. And quite frankly, they were prophetic. He really explained a lot of things in there that were humorous, but really to the point. Look them up someday if you can. I'm taking little looks at my notes here that I have, and one of the things that I admired about him is he never bragged to me that he was a great famous swimmer in Pakistan. I didn't know that until somebody told me. And I thought, hey, Ramiz, you were a great swimmer. Oh, yes, I love swimming, but didn't brag about it. And I was impressed with that, because a man of his intelligence can sometimes be self-centered, and I didn't find any of his existence in these studios when we were doing interviews and on the social circuit that he was at all self-centered and egotistical, like many of us broadcasters are. He had a great sense of humor. He would tease me and go right over my head, and he'd be sitting on the other side of the studios chuckling to himself, and I'm going, what's he laughing at? And then I'd hear it back, and I'd go, oh yeah, went right over my head. I've done over 2,000 interviews. That's 2,000 different people or more in my lifetime. And I want to say Ramiz was the very best of all. But I've done senators, I've done athletes, I've done politicians and doctors and criminals and all kinds of people. And Ramiz is on the top, if not. I'll tell you, he was quite the guy. And he loved this second home away from his beloved Karachi, Pakistan. And we talked about Pakistan. He told me all about it. The beautiful greenery and the mountains and the brooks and the streams and the ocean and the hot, sweltering cities. He told all about that. And I only knew about Karachi. That was the only thing I knew about Pakistan, frankly. And we didn't talk about war and peace between countries. We just understood that he being a Pakistani and me being American, that we liked and loved each other. And that was good enough for us. Now, in closing, I just want to say, Karen, thank you for the opportunity for we folks back home in your adopted city of Northfield, Minnesota. Miss him. Everybody I talked to on the streets, people that called me, emailed me, texted me, extend you and the kids their deepest sympathy. In such a short time, such great long memories we will have of Ramiz Allawala. Thank you.